Hello everyone, how are you? Welcome to the first Q&A segment on my channel here. Thanks for all your questions. I'm just going to start from the top, work my way through all of them, so let's dive in. The first question is from BNA XXX, actually with a handful of questions. So the first one is, why do most people who produce techno use Ableton? That is a good question. I honestly don't know. Probably because Ableton is an amazing program and it resonates with a lot of producers. Here's the thing. With DAWs, all DAWs are great these days. There is professional music being made at the highest standard in every genre, in every single DAW. Every DAW is capable of making amazing music in any style. So I mean, if you're wondering about switching or what DAW's right for you, a lot of these DAWs allow you to, download a demo and try it out, so you can see which one, suits your style, your workflow, which one you just, feel the most comfortable in, and then pick one, learn it inside and out, and focus on the music, not what DAW people are using, because it doesn't really matter. All DAWs are great, so don't get too hung up on it. Hopefully that helps. Question 2 is, how do you find a theme for a track? I always struggle with finding a good synth sound and don't know how to combine them with others. I mostly end up very frustrated after trying many things. Yeah, finding a theme for a track. Maybe if you're struggling to find a theme, maybe try starting with some sort of melodic theme and then build the track around that. Also, I would suggest maybe, keep it simple. It's really easy to overcomplicate these things and overthink these things. So try keeping it simple, especially if you're making techno. All you'll probably need is, maybe a stab, like a big synth stab or something, or chord stab, or a simple little like 1, 2, 3 note riff. And you can, use that as the main theme of your track. It doesn't have to be anything complicated by any means, especially for techno. You also said, should I start with a stab, lead, or ARP? I really don't know, especially because I try to create very dark sound and don't want to get too melodic. So yeah, exactly. With techno, you really don't need a crazy chord progression or anything. In fact, it's probably better if you don't. So, I mean, try starting with a stab, is to do a simple little pattern, or maybe try an ARP and then, get a vibe going and then build upon that. You also said that you struggle to find a good synth sound, which makes me think that maybe your sound design confidence isn't where you'd like it to be. I don't know, let me know if I'm wrong, but perhaps you should maybe brush up on some sound design, because it's quite easy to just make your own sound. Instead of surfing through presets, which is fine too, but it's just as easy to design your own sounds. All right, hopefully that was helpful. Question 3, did you study anything? Yes, I've studied lots of things, but you're gonna have to be more specific on that one. So maybe in the next one, you can let me know exactly what you're on about there. Number 4, is there a way to study audio engineering? Of course there is. You can go the school route and, take a course in audio engineering or get a degree in the audio engineering field. That's definitely, a viable option. Or you can, kind of take the route that I took and teach yourself. All the information is out there. You just got to go find it and, take it in. YouTube is a great resource. There's lots of great content on YouTube for free. The thing with YouTube is you have to kind of sift through a lot of shit sometimes to find the useful content, but it's there for sure. And there's also lots of great, paid tutorials and paid content as well. I really like Sonic Academy, for example. They're a subscription-based, extremely affordable. You pay a small monthly subscription, and then you get access to all of their, content. They have lots of audio engineering stuff, sound design, music theory, so on and so forth. So you can really kind of learn exactly what you want to learn, and not have to sit through courses that aren't really something that you're interested in. So yeah, Sonic Academy is great. ADSR is another subscription-based platform. I've used Fader Pro in the past. They're great. They are a paid per tutorial type of deal, but they have great content as well. And there's many more. So you can go either way there. But yeah, you can definitely study audio engineering for sure. Number 5, I really want to know how you program the sidechain trigger. I always use limiter and sidechain everything to my kick. So I used to use a sidechain trigger. I really don't anymore, and I haven't for some time. I prefer to use a plugin called Volume Shaper from Cable Guys. It allows you to draw in your own curves for sidechaining, so you can really tailor it exactly how, what it needs to do in whatever track you're working on. It also has multi-band capabilities, so I really like that feature as well. I just find it's much more convenient, much faster, and it does a great job. So, but I mean, if you're going to use a sidechain trigger, all it is a sample. It could be a kick. It doesn't have to be a kick either. It could be a short little clicky sound, whatever. It's muted from the output, so you're not going to hear that sound. All it's there for is to trigger a compressor for sidechain purposes. So the reason you would use a sidechain trigger is just because it gives you more control. So say for instance, you have a pad that's sidechained, and if you were to sidechain it to the actual kick, maybe during a breakdown, when you pull out that kick, you're going to lose that pumping effect. But maybe you want that to stay constant. So if you use a sidechain trigger, that's running throughout the entire track, if you pull out the kick, you're still going to get the sidechain effect. And then it also just allows you to have a little bit more control over how you dial in the compression. But that's all it is. It's nothing fancy by any means. It's just a sample, could be anything that's muted from the output to trigger the compressor. And then BNA also says, I can't say it more often. Thank you for your high quality content. You're welcome. I like the way you do tutorials without clickbaits. I always support your channel and social media. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And yes, it bugs me when people do clickbaity titles and whatnot. So I really try to not do that. I try and be, upfront about what you can expect in my videos. So hopefully I'm doing a okay job there. And then have a great day. You as well. Okay, next question by Paul Ashley. Hi brother, I want you to make tutorials of modulation effect on breakdown. I think you mean, okay. And how to work with keys without clashing when it comes to melodies, pads, and chords. So maybe be a little bit more specific when you say modulation effect on breakdown. I'm not sure exactly what you mean there, but I have done plenty of modulation tutorials. So you can search my channel and find plenty of content there. But to touch on, working with keys and melodic parts without clashing, I would say that it's important to work in the correct octaves. So say for instance you have a like a chord progression that's maybe down low, like a low chord progression or something, and then maybe, you know, and then the next octave up you have a little arp line, and it's giving the track some rhythm and some, you know, some energy, and then in the next octave up maybe you can program your melody or your top line or whatever. So just, you know, just making sure that you're in the right octave can definitely be helpful, and that helps avoid clashing. I would say also, it's easy to program too many parts. So make sure that you only have what you need in the track and nothing else. I mean, I always find myself muting a couple tracks at some point in the production process that I don't necessarily need, that's just taking space, you know, away from the mix and not really contributing anything. So make sure you don't have unnecessary tracks going. Also, when you're programming melodic parts, program them to be complementary to each other. You know, don't, if you have a little arp that's playing eighth notes, you know, maybe focus on the other 16th notes, excuse me, on a different part, so they're not hitting exactly at the same time. You could also use the arrangement to help separate things. So maybe you have a little riff or two riffs, for example, that are kind of occupying the same space. Play one and then have the other one answer that. So don't play them at the same time. Also, but if they do need to be playing at the same time, you could, you know, maybe pick one to have the priority, and then you can, excuse me, filter the other one down maybe while the other one's doing its thing, and then, you know, open up the filter again. You can do that. You can sidechain the parts against each other if there's too much clashing. So yeah, I think it's really about, you know, programming the parts to be complementary to each other, making sure that you're in the right octaves, and then use the arrangement to help, you know, these parts fit together comfortably. So yeah, hopefully that helps. There's always going to be some overlap, but just make sure that it's not too much. You can also, you know, make use of all the space you have. So, you know, pan things in opposite directions. Try keeping some sounds more central focused and mono, and then have some other sounds that are wide. That contrast is going to help these parts have their own place in the mix and avoid clashing. So hopefully that helps. Next question, by Sherik Chen. Hopefully I said that right. What are your computer specs? So I use a laptop for all of my music production, which is this guy here. It's a MSI Dominator. Let's see, it's has an i7 in it. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. It's got the GTX 1060 6 gig graphics card, and then an SSD. Yeah, so nothing crazy, but it does what I need it to do. I've had it for about 3 years now, and I'll probably be able to get another 2-3 years out of it, no problem. So it's a nice little machine. But yep, that's what I use for my production. Next question, Marek Bartonek asks, hopefully I said that one right. Let me know if I didn't. Hey Donny, first of all, thank you for your tutorials. You are welcome. I just wanted to ask, and I don't know if you have already made a tutorial on this, but could you give me some ideas on how to build nice, maybe more advanced ARPs, and how to keep them interesting throughout the song? Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't done one specifically. I haven't done a video specifically on ARPs, but I have done things that you could definitely, videos that you could definitely apply to an ARP. My latest video, how to keep a repeating bass stab interesting. I used LFOs and automation to keep it, moving, which you can apply those techniques to an ARP. So maybe check that video out, but I might do a video specifically on ARPs here soon. There's so much you can do. It's really just all about movement and change over time. So, say for instance, you use the arpeggiator that's built into FL Studio, the sampler. And if you don't use FL Studio, pretty much every arpeggiator is going to have these functions. But you can change the direction of the ARP occasionally for some variation. You could change the range or how many octave it's jumping, things like that. If you manually draw in or make the ARP in the piano roll, for instance, you can say it's a 1-bar loop. Once you're happy with the notes, then you can extend that out for maybe 8 or 16 bars, and then just humanize it a bit by maybe detuning some of the notes, maybe nudging some of the notes around as far as the timing goes. Do changes to the velocity, maybe pan some of the notes here and there, do some octave jumps here and there. All those little things will add up to be quite interesting. And then you could also split, you can double track it too, and I actually did a video on this, so I'll refer you to the video because I did a whole video on it. But you can pan an ARP left and then do all those changes I said in the piano roll, and then do another version of it on the right with slightly different settings as far as the timing and the velocity values and whatever, and then you get a nice wide sound. And then make use of your send effects, so automate send amounts, automate the ADSRs, automation. That's what it is. Key is just anything you can automate, do it, get it moving. All right, next question is from Spectre X. Hey Donny, what studio monitors do you use? I use the Yamaha HS8s, these guys right here. I love them. I have had them for about 5 years. They're great, especially for the price. They're affordable. They sound great. I love them. I also have the Atom A7X monitors, which are great as well. They have a very crystal clear mid-range and top end, so I like those as well, but I would still consider my Yamahas my main pair of speakers. All right, moving on. Crypto asks, how long does it take you to finish a track, and when do you feel it's ready? Thank you for your tutorials. Regards. You're welcome. So it takes me about 2 to 3 weeks to finish a track. Sometimes it can take me longer, depending on the track and whatnot, but usually in that time frame from 2 to 3 weeks. As far as when I feel the production is done, that's can be tricky because it's never really done, but I usually, in the production phase, I know what the track needs, so it'll just be like, yeah, I need a little effect here. I want to do a little ear candy, delay spin there. I need a little transition effect here, whatever. I kind of have in my head the things I need to get it done, and then once I start changing things that are already in there, then I feel like it's okay, it's time to pump the brakes and just stop, give it some time, give it a break, come back to the track in a couple days and see where I'm at. But that's usually the telltale sign for when the track's pretty much done, is when I start changing stuff that's already in there. So, yep. Next question is from Deep Sleep. When did you start to make music, and do you DJ in other places? I'm assuming you mean other than the US, is what I think you mean. So I started making music in 2006, and yeah, I've been dabbling ever since. I actually started producing before I started DJing. I was producing for, a year and a half or so before I started DJing. And I got really into DJing. I always was kind of, making music. I always loved it. It's always been an extreme passion for me. But it wasn't until about 5 years ago or so that I was like, okay, I really want to take my productions to the next level, and so yeah, as far as DJing outside of the US, I have not played outside of the US, only in my state, Utah. I've played all over Utah and in some of the surrounding states here, so that's something that I want to do as soon as possible. So it's something that I'm working towards. It's definitely a goal of mine to play outside of the US. So hopefully I can make that happen in the near future. Next question comes from True Beef. Hey mate, I have quite a few questions. I'll list them in order of curiosity. So if you only want to do one or two, then pick the top ones. So the multiple questions is fine for this Q&A, but maybe for the next one, maybe just keep it to one or two. But for this first one, I'll go ahead and just answer all of them. No problem. Number one, is music your full-time gig, or do you have a day job? So at the moment, I do have a very part-time job. I only work that job 2, sometimes 3 days a week, and it's only 4 to 5 hour shifts, so not a lot of time, but I'm getting close to being able to go full-time with music. So hopefully within the next year, I think, is my goal. I'll be able to go all in with music. It's not easy, but I'm getting close, so I'm almost there, but not quite just yet. Number two from True Beef. Do you produce all your tracks out of a home studio, or do you have somewhere else to go? So I recently, last year, about 1 year ago, I found the place that I'm in now, which is just a much better situation for me, because I don't have any neighbors that are close by that, so I don't have to worry about noise or anything, which is huge for me because I've had issues in the past with roommates and neighbors and whatnot. So I've got my own place here. This is an actual one of the extra bedrooms that I've turned into a studio. So I pretty much built kind of a room within a room here. I have custom massive bass traps and then a super thick absorbing custom wall behind me. So the acoustics in here are actually really quite good. So yeah, I don't go anywhere. This is my home studio. All right. Do you master your own tracks, or do you master your own tracks, or do the record labels you sign with do them? That's a good question. I can master my own tracks. I have in the past, but I really don't like to, because when I get to that stage of, the production process, I've listened to the track so much and I'm so emotionally attached to it that I would just prefer to have someone else who can have a completely objective view on it, who isn't emotionally attached to it. It's a mastering engineer who, that's what they do full time. They have a perfectly treated room, let's let them handle the final polish of the track. And all the labels that I would actually feel more comfortable mastering someone else's track. But as far as labels, all the labels that I've worked with and signed music to so far, they pretty much all have a mastering engineer on hand. So that's usually their job. You can master, you can send them a complete finished master if you'd like, but it's not necessary. That is technically their job to have it mastered. Okay, and number 4, will EDC Orlando be the biggest show you've played? Yeah, I played some pretty big shows, but as far as the people attending, EDC Orlando will be my biggest to date. So I'm really excited about that one. So yeah, I'm playing EDC Orlando November 9th. I'll be playing on the Mousetrap stage, so if anyone is going to be there, come say hi. Pretty excited about that one. And then question 5 from True Beef is, what have Mousetrap done for you since winning the comp? So what he's referring to, if you don't know, Beatport has put on this production competition the last 2 years, and what they do is they partner with kind of leading labels in different genres, and then you submit an original track, and Mousetrap picked me as their winner. So it's like a year-long mentorship with all kinds of things happening. But they've done a lot. For starters, they booked me at EDC Orlando. They have their own stage there, so there you go. They've also had me do a guest mix for their, for lack of a better, radio show on Mixcloud. So that's out now. You can go check that out. That went really well. I've kind of been in constant contact with them pretty much every month. I'll probably be going out to LA here shortly to get in the studio with some of their artists. They're based in LA, so I'm pretty close. So that sounds like that's going to happen. And there's some exciting things happening later this year, which I can't talk about just yet. So I'll have to keep those secret. But it's been great so far. Nothing bad to say. All right, next question from CR. Hey, Donny, what is the reason you'd put a compressor on a kick drum? That's a good question. So I'd put a compressor on a kick if I wanted to change the tonal characteristics of it, or if I wanted to alter the shape of the kick. So let's say you're working on a really deep, chilled out track, and maybe the kick you're using has a little bit too much front end bite. Maybe you just want to smooth it out a little bit. What you can do is use a compressor, go for a fast attack and medium release, and the fast attack is going to smooth out that initial transient, and then it's going to kind of bring up the body of the kick a little bit, so it'll give it more weight and body and smooth out the front end. And let's say, for instance, you wanted to give your kick a little bit more punch. You can go for a medium attack and then a medium to maybe fast release, and that's going to let the transients pass through before the compressor reacts to it, and then so the initial transient will pass through, and then it will suck in on maybe the tail of the kick, so it'll tighten it up and give it some more punch. So those are a couple scenarios on when I might use a compressor on a kick. But I will say this, if you have to, alter the kick too much to get it to sound the way you want it to sound, then it's probably best to just pick a kick that already has the characteristics that you're after. But there's nothing wrong with doing a little compression on a kick drum. So hopefully that was helpful. All right, last question from Sad Meme Boy. How do you combat the angst that everyone else who does techno uses Ableton, and I know FL Studio far too well to want to swap, all the while telling yourself that DAW doesn't matter, and realizing that you're telling yourself actually is true, apart from the fact that Ableton has shit like green delay and all the drum bus thingies. Okay, I'm gonna stop there on that one. First of all, I don't have angst because I'm using FL Studio. I don't care what other DAW people use. I could care less. I don't know why people get so hung up on the whole DAW thing. They're all great. Pick one that works for you. I like FL Studio. It works for me. So if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Whatever allows you to take the ideas in your head and translate them, you know, into whatever DAW you're using, then use that. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. All DAWs are great. If I wanted to use Ableton, then I actually have Ableton. I've used it before. It's great. But I still prefer FL Studio. It's my jam. So yeah, those are all the questions. So hopefully I didn't ramble too much. Hopefully you're able to take some tidbits away from this. And why don't we just continue this Q&A segment? So I invite you to ask me a question in the comments below this video, or you can ask me a question through my Facebook page or my Instagram page. The links for those are in the description. And yeah, I'll catch you soon, everyone. Thank you. Take care.